Hi, I'm Tim Backhouse from the Pete Cowan Academy here at Jumeirah Golf Estates. I'm just going to go through some slightly different ways of playing a few of these short pitch shots around the green. I think a lot of people get too one-dimensional when it comes to chipping, so I'm going to give you a few different ways of playing these shots. I'm going to start, that being said, on a fairly straightforward shot. So I've got my 4 wedges here with me, 46, 50, 54 and 58. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play to the further flag to start with, which is, as I say, a fairly straightforward shot. And I'm going to use my 50-degree wedge for that one. I think my setup pretty much stays the same throughout these shots in terms of grip, pressure, alignment and posture. But I think you can play the club slightly different in the way you feel it with your hand. As I say, I'm going to go to that farther flag to start with. One thing you'll notice straight away, hopefully, is how close I stand to the ball. A lot of golfers I see when I'm teaching day in, day out is they stand a long way from the ball. Try and get quite close and probably go as far as close as you can. You can see here, I'm probably not much more than 1 foot away from the ball there. So it can give you a much better way of getting a consistent strike. So I've got the ball in the middle of my feet, close to the ball, nice posture into the setup, and then, as I say, pretty standard grip. So from there, all I'm looking to do is try and get a pretty straight movement back with the shoulders. That's what will get the club working back and through, okay? So as you can see there, as I take the club away, the club is in a relatively neutral position, the shaft pointing pretty much parallel to the target. So I'll play one just to start with, so it's back and through, and you can see with the 50-degree wedge there's a little bit of a run out there, slight check at the beginning, and then, as I say, runs out to the hole. I wouldn't personally use much loft from this position because I don't see the point of flying it all the way. I think it's a lot more straightforward, so 50-degree wedge would be my choice. Now if I was to say want to fly the ball a bit further, then I could switch to my 54. Potentially there may be a slope or a bunker that may be coming into play here. But again, in terms of the technique, it remains fairly similar. So ball in the middle, quite close to the ball, set the position in front of me and just let the club work from there. So as I say, you can see I pitch it a bit further, slightly too far actually, but you can see the difference in the height on that shot. Now, if I was then to switch to the left flag, that's going to be a slightly higher shot now. So I'm going to switch to my 58-degree wedge. So I'm going to go to this left flag now. As you can see now from front on, the ball positions up pretty much in the center, depending on how high I want to hit it. This isn't a particularly high flighted shot. Even though I've got the bunker in the way, there's not too much really that I need to go over in terms of height. So I've got the ball pretty much in the middle, maybe just slightly left of center. But as you can see from here, I'm definitely pushing that toe and the bounce downwards. So then from there, what I want to feel is I want to feel the club brushing the grass. So if I'll actually try and get this a little bit before the ball now. So the funny thing is with these shots is most people would describe that as a little bit heavy. Now, technically speaking, I guess it would be because I've hit the ground slightly before the ball. But because the bounce of the club is working into the ground, there's no duff shot, there's no shot that goes embarrassingly 1 yard in front of you. So it's the bounce of the club that's hitting the ground quite hard, which is enabling the club to still travel through. And that shot actually went the closest of the 3 that I've hit because I've allowed the club to work. So when you've got a tight lie, this is especially important because the bounce of the club can hit the ground and that'll stop you from hitting it heavy. So ball position in the middle, hands level to slightly maybe even backwards, bounce of the club on the floor and let the club hit the ground. And you can hear the strike, the club is always hitting the grass. Now, I hear a lot of, I guess they are trying to help most of the time, but friends of golfers that I teach, and they're saying, they're being told, don't use your wrists, keep your head down, all the terrible sayings that we hear in golf. You need to use the wrist to a certain amount, to a certain degree with these shots because you need the slight angles. So when people say don't use your wrist, I would say, I get where they're coming from, but I think you should use a certain degree of wrist through the shots, but you've got to make sure the body is working with that. So a common bad shot would be that people stop the body and the hands flip. So as long as the body is still playing a part, you can use your wrists quite a big amount in these shots. So you can see when I'm playing these shots, even when I'm using my body, I'm using my wrists, and you can still get a good strike on the ball and you get a lot of spin. So when people say don't use the wrists, I get it, but try to say use the body, use the shoulders, and the wrists will play a part in a positive way rather than in a negative way. So just to summarize with that, I think the key is making sure the setup is correct first. That's more than 100% actually of shots you play, whether it be drivers down to putter. You should always make sure your basics are right, your foundations are right. So when I'm setting up, ball position in the middle. If you want to go a bit higher, maybe move it slightly forward. If you want to go a little bit lower, maybe move it slightly further back. Have a play around with that. There's nothing wrong with trying different shots out. Get close to it, as close as you basically dare to, and get the shaft angle quite upright. Bounce on the floor, you should be able to see the leading edges almost up slightly, so it's slightly exposed because you want the bounce on the ground, and then the toe down slightly. In terms of positions, pretty much that nice parallel position, club pointing, butt of the club pointing parallel to your target, and as you let the club fall from there, the club will hit the ground here, and the arms and the body will turn the club through. So as you see, there's no flip there because the body has worked through the shot. So the position through the ball, you set the position, set the finish, and the club face almost points up towards my face, almost up towards the sky if anything. Okay? Hope that helps, and we'll see you soon.